Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 4. In today's episode, got a buddy of mine I met down at one of the coaching clinics in Florida. He's the head coach at Creekside High School, Coach Sean McIntyre. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, Coach Lamb. Man, it's this is honestly an honor. Honestly, an honor. Like just to be part of this fraternity of coaches and the profession of coaches. I don't think there's anything more worthy in the world, and having a chance to talk about it and the experiences we've had and the things we've done, it's going to be a good time.
Well, Coach, I've had a slew of guys on here that have been coaches' kids, but your dad was an NFL player.
He was for a moment. So my dad from St. Louis, Missouri, and went to Missouri State and played a little bit of receiver. And then he got a little bigger, played a little bit of fullback. And funny you mentioned that. I was actually with my mom yesterday, and she had out these pages of just articles about him in college and all the accolades that he had gotten. Well, he had signed a free agent contract with the Houston Oilers and made it to the final preseason game and lost out to Earl Campbell. And so I don't think there's any love lost in that transaction there. And so after that, just kind of the crazy way the world works, right? He didn't know what he's going to do. Football had always been such a big part of his deal and his life. He was a little bit, just kind of needed change. So he joined the Peace Corps, ended up in Saipan for 2 years. And while he was there, the high was 71 and the low, or 74, and the low was 71. And for 2 years, he comes back to St. Louis after that and have the worst blizzard, the worst winter they've ever had. And he's like, I'm out of here. He literally, yeah. So back in the day, wrote a letter to every school on the east coast of Florida from Daytona Beach to Fort Pierce. Melbourne High School called him and said, hey, can you coach running backs? He said, yeah. He said, hey, can you teach math? He said, yeah. Can you be here in 2 weeks? He said, yeah. And him and my mom had just started dating. He said, babe, I'm moving to Florida. I think you're the one for me. I love you. And all that worked out. They moved to Florida. He got a job at Melbourne High School coaching running backs, and ultimately worked his way up, got into administration, and became area superintendent down at Brevard County Schools. But, just the football fabric. And he coached, he became the head coach at Mel High, won a few district titles, did some really good things. And coached our little league teams. And, I was one of those kids that was putting on a football helmet when the football helmet was bigger than me. So just blessed to grow up. He's by far my biggest mentor, role model, impact on my life. I was lucky to be raised by him he passed away when I was 26. So far too soon, but all the life lessons that I learned in those 26 years are what, kick me forward every single day for sure.
So needless to say, you played. everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's that, man. I'll be honest. Like, that's one of the things that bothers me the most about the world today is these kids can't just play for their high school, for their school, because of all these travel sports. When I grew up, and I'm not, by no means am I a tremendous athlete of any capacity. I like to compete and I like to do well, but like, I played football, baseball, and basketball, as a sophomore in high school. Like, we had junior highs, not middle school. So we had 8th grade was at the junior high, but our 9th grade, was at the junior high. And so when I came up to 10th grade, I played JV football, I played JV basketball, I played JV baseball, and I tore my ACL as a junior. So I wasn't able to play basketball anymore. But like, kids can't do that anymore. Kids can't just be a part of multiple sports at their school. It's a struggle for us right now to get kids to play 2 sports. And that's because they got these trainers that they got to pay. And the trainer says, I shouldn't. Well, if you stop paying him money, what's he going to say then? He ain't gonna care what you do.
Right.
He's got to get his paycheck. And I feel bad for kids these days. I don't feel like they can enjoy it. A lot of that social media, man, like these kids, they see, oh, Johnny got an offer. Well, buddy, you're not Johnny. So like, let's just go to work, have fun, enjoy your career, enjoy your time here, and go from there. But, I think that's one of the sad things. But yeah, I grew up playing everything. We played, I was telling my kids the other day, hey man, you're going to go outside and you're going to be out there. Well, what if I get thirsty? You're going to drink out of the hose. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's the way I was raised. My mom would lock the door. No lie. I got 2 brothers. My youngest brother's only 3 years younger than me. So we had a great time. I mean, there was a lot of fights and a lot of fun, but my mom would lock the door and say, you're outside. And then she would just yell, hey, lunch is ready. Put it on the table and lock the door again. And that's, it was a great way to grow up. It was a great way to live. I'm blessed for all the lessons I learned and the family I have. And, I feel for these kids today because of social media, because of all this stuff, because they're under such immense stress and pressure, things that I didn't have to grow up and deal with. And I take that into account as we move forward every day.
So where did you go to high school?
Went to Melbourne High School, right there in Melbourne, Florida. Great place, man. Proud to be a Bulldog. Love it. The stadium's actually named after my dad now, Tom McIntyre Stadium. And, so going back there and revisiting that and some of the coaches that are still there, it's awesome. There are people who made huge impacts on my life at that high school. Jim McGinnis, Daryl Buchanan, those guys are. Daryl's now the athletic director there. Coach McGinnis is retired. Mike Vogt was my head high school football coach. We ran the wing tee, and it was awesome. We ran the ball. I was a receiver. I had led the team in catches with 6 catches. And I led the team, and we rushed the ball for about 500 yards a night. And it's a lot of fun. Those are memories I am very fond of and try not to forget.
So you got an opportunity to play baseball in college?
Well, like I said, I'm not a very good athlete. So I had some Division III, and I try to use my story with my kids a lot of times because I have some kids that really love football and they're not sure about the next level. And I always tell them, I said, this is what I did, and this is why I feel good. So, had some Division III opportunities, right? And to play football and continue that. And I love football, obviously. And so my dad and I took a trip during spring break of my senior year, and we drove to a bunch of Division III schools that were interested and that we thought we could afford and play at and all of those things. And we went and we put boots on the ground, had visits, talked to the coaches, saw the stadium, went through everything, right? And costs. And I just made a decision, that I didn't think that was what I wanted to go down that path. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, knew I wanted to be a coach. I don't know. I kind of made that decision during my sophomore year of high school. I just loved being a part of a team. Loved the every day when I went to school and saw my buddies and my teammates, I was just in a good mood and happy. And so I didn't feel like that was the best path for me. And I felt like I was still a little bit, had a more development and some growth that I could still take place in baseball. I tear my ACL as a junior, kind of set that back a little bit. And so I thought I could still grow in that realm and had a chance to compete at a higher level. So I walked on at UNF, ended up not making the team after I got redshirted. Then I went to the junior college for a year and played. And then I ended up not making the team coming out. And that was a good thing for me, like learning that struggle and that, how to fight and earn something and not get what you want and got to get up and go to work the next day anyway. And so played for a few years at UNF, made some great friends and had a great time and got my degree in education. And the way it worked out, Coach Wiles, Joey Wiles, a legendary coach here in the state of Florida, won a state title like at St. Augustine High School the year I was there, actually. So I'm doing my student teaching. I just called Coach Wiles and had a relationship with him because of my dad. My dad had hired Coach Wiles in 1978 to be his defensive backs coach, and he actually succeeded my dad as head coach at Melbourne High School. And so I had Coach Wiles. He likes to tell everybody he's known me since I was pissing in my diapers. And so I called him. I said, Coach, doing my student teaching, I put St. Augustine High School down as my primary school where I want to be. And not sure, whatever you need me to do. You need me to coach freshmen, film, laundry, whatever you need me to do. I would love for it to work out. Well, it ended up working out. And so in 2005 fall, I did my student teaching at St. Augustine High School, and we won a state championship. I had very, very little to do, if anything. Obviously, there's a lot of work that had gone into that, and it was just an unbelievable experience. And we went 15-0, had some really good players, had some unbelievable coaches, and I was just like, wow, everybody should be winning a state title. Look how easy this is. And that was not the case. I was coaching freshman running backs and JV running backs, and it was a great year. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot and had an unbelievable experience.
Well, going back, one of the things you said that kind of ties into what you were alluding to with the social media thing is you played everything and you had a lot of irons in the fire, so you gave yourself more opportunities. Football wasn't what you wanted to do, but you could fall back on baseball. And these kids these days, they put all their eggs in one basket. Well, what if it doesn't work out? And now with transfer portal and the way everything is dropping down levels, I was joking with somebody the other day. I said, if I'm the head coach at Okie Doke University and I look at my coordinators and I go, look, man, go find the third best, say, running back at every SEC school and go get them. Let's target them. If we get 3 of them, they're going to be better than anybody we have.
Yep.
And it's going to trickle down. And these kids get on social media and they see all this stuff and they're cheating themselves out of, dude, just go somewhere where you can play or get an opportunity. Because I think the players are screwing themselves into, they're going to run out. There's going to be, it's supply and demand. There's not going to be as much supply.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I think it's a two-way street too. Because that SEC team, they might be looking at the best FCS player, and that third guy might not even have a spot coming back because, and that's one thing that's really sad for these kids right now, and they're going through it. I had a kid go through it a couple years ago, and it was a situation where they just told him, "Hey, man, your scholarship's not getting renewed," and we're in that. Those kids are now on contract, and make no bones about it. It is a sad. I'm very fortunate. We have some awesome kids who've graduated from Creekside High School the last 8 years and who've come back to talk to the team. And a common theme of every one of them, most of the kids are playing in college at some level. We got kids at every level. And they are coming back and they're saying, hey, boys, this is the last fun you're going to have. Like the moment you're either not going to play again or you're going to go and it's a job. And it is a job. And that's the message that they give our team a lot of times. And I never prompt them to ask them to talk about anything specifically, but it has just been a common theme the last 8 years. Those kids just talking about how much fun they had when they were at Creekside High School versus, the job-like and work-like environment it is at the next level. And it's even going to be more magnified now as NIL and the school takes that over. It's going to be crazy for these kids. They're literally going to be like professional athletes. It's going to be one and done.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. The rush of racing? Nothing beats it, but Chumba Casino comes close. Chumba's got fast spins, fun games, daily bonuses, and all the action you can handle. Now that's a ride. Ready to hit the throttle? Get in the driver's seat and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And if you're not producing, you're gone. And that's not the college football we grew up on.
No, and that's what I've told kids for the last 20 years of my career. I tried to impart to them that I will help you any way I can to realize your dream of playing at the next level, but understand this. It is a job, and if you do not love it, you won't do it anymore because it's different. They're going to take that from you. And it's hard, you know, and they look at you like, yeah, whatever, old man, you don't know what you're talking about. And you're like, okay, well,
yeah,
you know, because I'm glad the kids are coming back and sharing with them, not to scare them off, not to, because they'll listen to them more, you know, they're closer in age, they're more their peer group. But, and just too, you being able to share the adversity of, you know, it didn't work out, but I had an education, and here I go student teaching with Coach Wiles. And my first year, we won a state championship. And you're like, hey, man, let's go. I'm hooked.
I've been doing it for 19 years since and never been back to the show. We practiced on Thanksgiving a few times, but we've never been back to the game.
So where did you end up going after St. Augustine?
Oh, man, I tried. That was back in the day when you couldn't get a job, which is like the exact opposite now. If you got a certificate, you can get a job any day of the week. But back then there wasn't any jobs available. And so the only thing that St. Augustine had available was a reading teacher. And I did not feel comfortable with that at all. Like, it was just such a toxic thing back then with the FCAT and school grades. And I did not feel comfortable taking a reading job. I mean, I texted and called everybody in Jacksonville trying to get a job, and emailed and dropped off resumes, and nobody had a social studies job and needed a coach. Man, what a time. But it ended up where my dad had been principal at Rockledge High School, and I was at the point where I was like, all right, well, it's time to get a job. And well, my parents were more like, hey, man, it's time to get a job. And so you know, but the semester of that, kind of going back, just the struggles and make you make you have a lot of gratitude for things. The second semester, the offensive coordinator at St. Augustine had left, and he was a PE teacher. And Coach Wiles asked me to hold that spot. He said, "Will you be the full-time sub in that job?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "I didn't have anything else to do." So I was a full-time sub. I made $1,014 a month. I lived 42 miles from St. Augustine High School. So I was driving 80 miles a day in my little 4-cylinder S10, many days pushing into the gas station, trying to scratch together 2 nickels and put some gas in the car. And, but it was an awesome semester, you know, and just those things make me really appreciate where we're at now and all the things that are happening. But going back to the next part, you know, I couldn't find a job in Northeast Florida. So Rockledge High School had just lost their varsity wide receivers coach, and he was a social studies teacher. And I had been in touch with Coach Lusk, who had just taken the program over from Coach Wood. And he called me, said, "Sean, I need a receivers coach, and I need a social studies teacher." I said, "Yes, sir. When do you want me there?" He said, "Monday." And this was a Friday. I said, "Yes, sir." So literally packed up my stuff, moved out of my place with my roommates, and headed home. And left my now wife, then girlfriend, in Jacksonville. Moved back to Brevard County because that's where I could get a job. So ended up at Rockledge High School in 2006 as the varsity wide receivers coach, and had an immense experience and learned a ton in that moment. You know, just about life and what you got to do, and sometimes where the good Lord wants you.
So how long were you at Rockledge?
I was at Rockledge for 3 years, 6, 7, and 8. And Rockledge had won back-to-back state titles in 2001 and 2002. Coach Wood had then resigned and kind of retired from coaching. And Coach Lusk, who was the defensive coordinator for a long time at Rockledge, had taken over. And I learned so much on that staff. Larry Laskowski was the offensive coordinator, and just an unbelievable man. And I learned how to work. Like, I literally learned how to work. And it was back in those days, man. I was the young guy on staff, and I know everybody talks about it on the Sun podcast, but like, I'm driving to meet people, you know, I'm driving to meet people with tapes on Saturday morning. And some of these guys that you're meeting, they don't have a cell phone. And so, like, I mean, the kids these days, they don't know this struggle, you know what I mean? And, so like I'm in charge of setting all this up. Like, so on my planning period, I got to call their office phone and hope they pick up and talk about where exactly we're going to meet. And, you know, you talk about, you got to get the exact McDonald's you're meeting at, because there's two McDonald's in Titusville. And one of the first times I ever met somebody, I actually was doing it for Coach Wiles. I met Marty Lee, who was the head coach at First Coast. I met him at a Home Depot on Southside Boulevard. Well, guess what? There's 2 Home Depots on Southside Boulevard. He is at the other one. And so, just learning how to deal with all of those things and that accountability, it was just it was a crazy time. I appreciate those moments. You're at 7-Eleven, you're at McDonald's, you're at, Home Depot, whatever, trading film and learning how to work. Cause shoot, we get home from a game and the kids, I mean, they got huddle and they got, quick cut and they got all this stuff now. Back then, my first job when we got home from a game is I had to start the copy to copy because I had to have a copy of the game to take with me. And then I had to do it again before I left because the offense needed a copy in the morning and the defense needed a copy. And, it's crazy. Now you just click a button. Hey, here's your film, as opposed to back then. But those were all good times. Some of them, I mean, shoot, there was, you get in the playoffs and people don't talk about this. You get in the playoffs, you got a 2-hour car ride to drop the film and 2 hours back. And so, I mean, there was days we were driving to Lakeland or to meet teams from Tampa and, driving to Daytona to meet teams from Jacksonville. It was just it was a different time, man. Simpler time, fun time, but different for sure.
So when you left Rockledge, you ended up at where?
I ended up at Bayside High School down in Palm Bay, and a guy named Derek Smith. He had been the defensive coordinator at Palm Bay High School. They had won a couple state titles. He took the Bayside job and called me. At that point, I'd only done 1 year of offense at Rockledge, and I had moved over to coach defensive backs for Coach Lusk. At Rockledge my second and third year. And that's really where I cut my teeth. Kind of got better. It was going to a bunch of clinics, talking to as many guys as I could, thought I had an idea. And it was a good situation for me because Derek had his defense that he wanted to run, but he wanted somebody to coordinate it. So he gave me the structure and he offered me the defensive coordinator position. He gave me the structure of the defense that he wanted and all the calls and the things and the way he wanted it done. But then he let me kind of put my touch on it, install it. And it was a good thing for us. There was actually, man, that staff that we had at Bayside was one of the best staffs I've ever been a part of. Derek is a great coach. He's actually in Georgia now. And he's at McIntyre and, he's in Georgia having success. Kevin Mays, the head coach of Baker County, was our offensive coordinator. Quentin Short, who's now the head coach at Piper. They just went 10-1 this year. Got knocked down in the second round of the playoffs for 11-1. No, they went on 10-2 this year, and he was our offensive line coach. We had some great coaches on that staff that I learned a lot from, and it just was a situation where I was able to grow kind of in my role, and I had Derek there as kind of a safety net, a parachute to make sure things weren't going off the rails. And we had some great kids, man. We had a situation where these are kids down in Southwest Palm Bay. Dirt roads, more potholes in a road. I'm picking kids up every day. There was a couple kids, Kevin Pierre, Franz Palamis, man. Those are my guys. I picked them up for school. Kevin was Franz's uncle, and they were 1 grade apart. They both lived with their grandmother, and they were just unbelievable kids. I'm like, man, what do I need to do to help you two? And they're like, Coach, we just need to ride, man. So I drive down the dirt road every day, pick them up, and they were always ready. And took them to school every day, and now they're both coaching and teaching. I use them as an example all the time. Those two guys, man, and just developing those relationships that are lasting from Bayside was an immense experience in and of itself. I definitely grew as a coach, definitely got better, learned how to coach, learned how to run a side of a ball, and we won the first 2 district titles in school history. We went to the third round twice to Manatee. It was an awesome experience. I learned a ton and just have a ton of great memories from Bayside High School for sure.
Well, something you said there that I really appreciate is Coach Smith giving you the parameters of what he wanted and letting you play within those parameters. That's something I've always believed in. I've done it with the kids. When I coordinated defense, I'm like, look, here's what we can do. Here are the coverages you can play to trips. Here's what we can play to 2x2. Here's what we can play to sniffer sets. Y'all decide what you want to do. And people look at me like, you let the kids do that? Well, they're the ones out there that have to play. I don't know if they're comfortable playing cover 3 to trips this week against this bunch, or if they're comfortable playing cover 1. If they think, I mean, they'd come and we'd have a plan. Don't get me wrong, we'd have a plan.
Yeah.
But I'd say, listen, to trips, we can play, we can play cover 3, we can play cover 1, we can play 0 always, or we can play, we called it read it, but it was trap. And, I don't care. Just pick one, make sure everybody knows what we're doing, do it. Well, they'd come off the field and they would say, Pop, they call me Pops. Pops, can we play cover 1? I don't know, can we? Well, yeah. We can lock these guys. Okay, we'll do that. If it works, we'll do it. If it doesn't, we'll go back to doing something else. Him giving you the freedom to do that, I think that's huge for a young coach, to letting you play within the sandbox, so to speak.
100%. And I'm the same way you are with our kids and the kids that have played for me. I want them to have ownership of it. I can tell you this, our plays are far more likely to work when the kids believe in what they're doing than being told what to do.
100%.
And I've had situations where we've had 4th downs and I'm calling plays on a Friday night, and I ask our quarterback, hey man, what do you like right here? And our head coach like, what the hell are you asking him for? I'm like, 'cause I want him to believe in it. And that's important to me. You know what I mean? Like I hate when our kids aren't invested, because if they believe in it, they're going to make it work.
Well, I've had college coaches come in and they're like, what coverages does this kid know? And I'm like, I don't know, ask him. And the kid would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, any combination of those. And they'd go through it, and the college coach looking at me going, really? And I'm like, well, yeah, you have to put a lot of work in Monday through Thursday, but on Fridays, it's just, I made one call. I'd go base check, and then I'd just sit there. And then I'd clap and high five and headbutt and yell. And it was self-adjusting. So you didn't have to wait to get into halftime to make adjustments. You didn't have to wait. And it was, you didn't have to wait, especially, and it was ahead of its time kind of because of the RPO game now and everything's fast. You didn't have to wait. The kids could adjust on the fly. And I'm like you, they're the ones out there doing it. I mean, as long as they recognize the formation and line up right, it'll work. I mean, it's high school football. It's not rocket science.
That's right. That's right. And if the kids don't know what they're doing, you can call whatever you want and you're going to be in trouble. If we
don't line up and tackle, it doesn't really matter.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. I mean, I just appreciate the fact that I think that's a good lesson to old heads and young coaches alike, to let your guys give them an outline and let them play. Let them do. Trust them. They can. And if they need a little guidance, or if they need a little, go, hey man, think about this, or what do you think about? And if you're a young coach, don't be so prideful that if you get stuck, ask for help.
Right. And just in my role now, that's the way because of that experience, that's kind of the way that I have structured how I handle things. I don't go into our offensive coordinator and say, hey, this is what we're doing this week. I go into our offensive coordinator and say, hey, what's our plan, or how do you want to attack, or what's your thoughts on this? And handle it that way, as opposed to walking in. Now, there's certain things that the parameters and the outline of what our offense is going to look like have been laid out for him. But, you just have to make sure that you want those, because you want your coaches to have ownership of it. So if it's just shoved down their throat, just like with the kids, you're not going to have any buy-in from them. You're not going to have the same level of coaching that you would get if they had completely owned every part of the process with you and are walking in step with you, as compared to just being told, hey, this is what we're doing this week.
Oh, absolutely. I think if I was ever it's not going to happen, but if I was ever a head coach again, I'd probably just walk into the first staff meeting and go, offensively, I like gap scheme. I want to run power, put the kids in the best position that they can be in to be successful. I think throwing the ball is communist. But y'all do whatever you think we can do. And defensively, be multiple, run fast, and tackle. Don't let the guys get behind you. Y'all have a nice day. I'll be over here coloring if you need me.
Right.
I'll do with the parents raising money and dealing with administrative stuff. Y'all deal with the football part of it.
Yeah, that is what is crazy about my job now. Back then, in that role at Bayside High School, it was 90% ball and 10% everything else, and now it's completely flipped on its head. It's 90% everything else. I enjoy the moments I currently get to sit on the whiteboard and talk with our OC and talk with our DC and talk with our coaches and put a game plan together. But those times are fleeting for head coaches in 2024. That's for sure.
So after your Bayside, what did you parlay that into?
So got married while I was at Bayside. I got married kind of in transition to Mandarin High School. I got married. My now wife, then girlfriend, she had moved to Melbourne with us, and she moved down there, and we got engaged and got married. And her parents were quote unquote transitioning to retirement. My wife's from Fort Lauderdale and Broward County. Her dad, and he's a huge mentor of mine as well. I just been so blessed in so many ways. Her dad was a head football coach at Stoneman Douglas. That's where he cut his teeth. He was other places as well, Boyd Anderson, Piper, Monarch, a couple other places. But he really did he opened Stoneman Douglas as a head coach. And the first year, Stoneman Douglas is much like Creekside in that demographic and the affluency of the kids. And his first year when they didn't have seniors, they went like 4-6. And then he never had a losing season after that. At one point, beat St. Thomas Aquinas 3 years in a row, won a bunch of games and a bunch of district titles, and made some unbelievable. Probably the thing that I take away most from it is there's this group of kids that he coached when they opened the school. So my father-in-law was at, I believe it was South Plant, and he was a PE teacher there. And that school was splitting to open Douglas. And there were some kids that were getting split to go with him, and they knew that he was going. And so they would come and eat lunch with him every day in the second semester. And those kids, they opened Douglas with my father-in-law. They are now obviously not kids, they're older than me. They still reach out to him every single year, and they take a trip. There's about 14 or 16 of them. And they take a trip. Like this year, they went to Montana and hiked through the Yellowstone, and they take my father-in-law with them.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, man. I mean, you just talk about the relationships that are developed and built through this high school football thing, through these endeavors. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's still like 30 years later, they got this 73-year-old man who's got two knee replacements and gonna probably going for his second hip sometime this year. And he doesn't do all the hikes with them, but every year they're like, you're coming. I don't care if we have to drag you up the mountain. And so it's just like, I took that away from him, the meaningful, deep relationships he was able to develop. There wasn't a day that was going by my first 8 years at Creekside, or my first 3 years at Creekside, that I'm on my way to work. I was calling him and just bouncing things off him, just talking through things, and was very thankful. But anyway, so my wife had moved to Melbourne.
Well, let's stop right there, because
yeah,
I mean, all of that you said about your father-in-law was great, and that's cool. But the best thing you got out of the deal was a coach's kid as a wife. So you've got a great coach's wife out of the deal, because that's important.
Unbelievable, Chris. Unbelievable. I can't tell you. And she,
because you got to have a wife that gets this business.
Yes, and she gets it more than me. And sometimes she's like, now with the invention of social media, there's not a moment I go by, especially with back in the day. You left work. Well, in today's day and age, you can be working at any time from anywhere, and whether it's social media, emails, whatever, you can be doing it. And she's like, Sean, you don't need to be doing that right now. Whatever that is, or that is important. You need to do that. So she keeps me very, and never in a derogatory, or it's just like, that's not important. So she helps me really maximize my time, my energy. We have 2 young kids. They're unbelievable. It's just so much fun. Like they were in tears after our last game this year. It was the first time they realized like the season was over, and they had some, like, we go over and read to their classes. We go over to a local elementary school and have our kids read over there a couple times a year. So there's some of the kids that had gone to their classes, and my son came to our youth camp this year. So they had some really cool relationships with some of the seniors this year for the first time. And they were like, he's not playing here anymore. And they were just seeing that and that transition. I wasn't like that, for me ever before. So seeing those things has just been really special. But yeah, I am so blessed that Megan said yes to marrying me, and that she is an unbelievable coach's wife. She supports us. We have kids over for dinner all the time. She understands I got to go paint the field. She understands I got to go mow in the summer. She understands those things.
So she joins you there. Y'all get married.
Yeah. Yeah. And my father-in-law and his wife, my mother-in-law, they had moved up to St. Augustine, and, just kind of through full circle. The full-time sub job I did at St. Augustine High School, my father-in-law ended up taking that job. Him and Coach Wiles had known each other from Penn State football camp. Every July they went together, and sometimes they were roommates. And Coach Wiles had convinced my father-in-law, hey man, you come on up here to St. Augustine. It's a beautiful place to live. And my father-in-law was just looking to kind of take a step back and be an assistant. My mother-in-law was ready to get out of Fort Lauderdale, and they moved up to St. Augustine. And so that job that I held, my father-in-law took. So 2012, we get married, and now currently, probably my best friend, my mentor, my guy, Brian Braddock, takes the Mandarin job at Jacksonville. And he knows, because he was at St. Augustine with my father-in-law, he knows that my mother-in-law and my wife want to get back to Jacksonville to be together. So he offers me the offensive coordinator job, and say yes. And we moved back to Jacksonville 2013, go to Mandarin, and we're there 3 years. I was there, so I went from being a DC to being an offensive coordinator. And man, that transition, like I'm sitting there as a defensive coordinator going, oh man, you could just do this. If they just did this to us, this little wrinkle, if they just made this formation adjustment, if they just ran this wheel off of this, we're not gonna be able to cover that. And you're just like, man, being an OC would be so easy. Yeah, little did I know it is the structuring and the building of the entire playbook. Like 2013, and admittedly, we weren't very good, and I wasn't any good at building an offense. Just holistically, structurally, it's not as easy. If you call one play, yeah, good for you, buddy. But like, you got to build a whole offense where your kids can function, execute, and do their job in every capacity. Then have answers for people and what they're doing to you on defense.
Yeah, there's too many moving parts on offense. Defense is see it, line up, go.
yeah, right. And there's a lot of truth in that statement, man. And the best defensive coordinators, they get their kids to play fast and they're simple. Yeah. But on offense, you got to have all these different wrinkles and things, just so because you can't give people the same thing too many times. So we weren't very good, and I wasn't any good at calling plays. 2014, we got better, and I got better, and kind of had a good junior class coming back as seniors, just kids that were really, really committed, really convicted about what we were doing, just awesome young men. And 2015, we run it out. We go 12-1 and lost to West Orange, who had like 17 FBS football players. Quarterback going to Auburn, receiver going to Michigan, left tackle going to Florida. Every kid on defense was committed somewhere. Like their worst player was going to Air Force. And it just had a ton of success that year, and that lost in a one-score game to them on Thanksgiving weekend, and just a ton of fun. And then Brian got the St. Augustine job and went back home. And I really wanted that Mandarin job. I wanted to be there. I thought I had done a lot to help Brian build that. I was kind of his right-hand man. We had kind of taken it from, not being very good to we were ready to roll. Like we had a good group coming back, and I didn't get that job. And still to this day, kind of bitter about it, really wanted it in that moment at that time of my life, but wasn't meant to be. And so I went with Brian to St. Augustine for 1 year after that. But man, those Mandarin years were a ton of fun. Those kids, we still, kind of in the same light as my father-in-law. Every Christmas, there was about 8 or 9 kids in that 2015 class that were really tight. And actually a couple kids from the 2014 class are really tight with those kids. We get together like at Buffalo Wild Wings up here during Christmas break, just about every Christmas. There's a text thread that goes out, and we get able to, some of the coaches from that group and some of the kids from that group go up there and have some wings and cut it up, man. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun, a lot of stories. So those are the things that really I've kind of learned to love and grow on and make sure that we're making those memories happen for our kids. But yeah, so it went from Mandarin to St. Augustine there from Mandarin 2013, 14, 15, and then St. Augustine in 2016.
And then you finally get the call to sit in the big chair?
Yeah. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a head coach, so I obviously interviewed for a few jobs. And the Creekside job had come open, and just thought it maybe fit me and who I am and the personality that I have and the way I want to run a program. And they had been really bad, really, really bad, like not won a game in 2.5 years on any level. They didn't win a JV game, didn't win a varsity game. And I was like, well, here's what I know. I know we can do better than that. I don't know how good we can do, but I know we can do better than that. So I felt like it was a good spot to kind of get my feet wet.
Yeah, you weren't going to do worse.
Yeah, we weren't going to do worse. And so really got my feet wet as what it really takes to kind of build your own program. Had learned a lot from Coach Weil.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Learned a lot from my days at Bayside and Rockledge. And then obviously kind of the blueprint that Coach Braddock had and that we had grown and developed at Mandarin and St. Augustine in 2016. Just kind of followed that blueprint and have made some major adaptations to it here in the last 8 years. But that foundation and that structure is still alive and well at Creekside after that growth. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, my thought was it's kind of the same way about when I had a decision to make about playing college football. I kind of was like, am I going to regret this in 20 years if I don't do it? And when I thought about playing college football, I was like, no, I'm not going to regret not coming here. So I let that pass. But at the Creekside thing, I just kind of always had it in my heart. I was like, I think there's going to be a night I put my head on the pillow and go, what about Creekside? Is that a good fit? And I think I would regret it if I didn't take the job. So talked to my wife and we, probably not very wisely, but my son, my wife's 9 months pregnant, and I take the job at Creekside in December of 2016 and been there ever since.
So when you came in, what was the first thing that you knew, like for coaches out there that are going into a new situation that hasn't had success, what was the very first thing that you were like, this has to be done? I mean, did you have like a 7-day deal, or did you have a list, or did you were like, all right, these are my non-negotiables? I mean, how did you approach that?
No, I didn't. I was very fortunate in kind of some of the things, the way it played out initially. We had left some really good coaches at Mandarin High School, and those guys were there with us pretty much our whole time. And they were great men, and they were not real happy with the change at Mandarin, and there wasn't any room for them at St. Augustine, so they didn't come down there with us because Coach Wiles had left such a good staff for Brian. And so it was only a 1-year transition, but they were already fed up with what was going on at Mandarin, and all of them were certified teachers. And I had about 3 guys from that staff that said they would come, and then before I took the job, I was told that they would have a job. And I felt like with those 3 guys who I knew their heart, I knew their soul, I knew their core being, who they wanted to be and what they were going to do for young men, I felt really good about taking that job. So I wasn't walking in there because at that time there was 2 JV coaches on campus, and neither of those guys were football coaches. Neither of those guys coached for me. They said they were JV football coaches, but when I said what it was going to take to be a part of this staff, they were like, oh, no, thanks.
Right.
And so, which is fine. Like I'm let's cut to the chase right now. This is what it looks like for you to be a part of this staff. Are you willing to do that? And they weren't, and that's fine. But I was able to really make some headway initially with my staff, because none of the 3 guys I brought from Mandarin were PE teachers. The head coach that was exiting was a PE teacher. I didn't want to teach PE. That's a whole other subject. But I didn't want to teach PE. So I knew I was going to have another PE job to bring in a really good coach. And we were able to do that. I think the first year we went from 0, like my first spring on campus, it was me. I was the only on-campus guy. And then in the fall, we had 5 additional to me, which is a huge increase. And then we were able to go to like 7 the next year. And then it's kind of been fluctuating. I think right now I have 10 on campus, which is a huge number. And it's absolutely awesome. So blessed in that capacity. But yeah, I think that was the reason why I really took that job. And to go back to your other question, man, like I'd been a part of several football programs right throughout the state. And I'm like, all right, this is, there's certain things that are just, you can just do. Not at Creekside. Like painting the field. I was like, I need a string. There wasn't like, so the first 2 things I bought were their Pioneer makes this like tape with the tabs on it. I mean, to mark off your field every 5 yards. I'm like you couldn't find the corner pieces at the practice field. Like all of those things that like it just was in rough shape in every capacity. The second thing I bought was 2 drones because there was no way to film practice. So there was no end zone tower. There was no tower on the practice field. What they had done in the past, if they filmed practice, was they had hurt kids back their truck up to the side of the practice field and film from the top of their truck. And I'm just like, what in the hell is going on around here? And so like, it was a complete reboot of a program. And I learned some valuable lessons in those moments, in those days. I think the first thing you have to do if you're taking over a place like that, like they weren't accustomed to working like at the capacity and the speed and the intensity of what is required to be competitive. We are not the most athletic team any Friday night. We are slow as a program, and that's okay. Like it's not like I was surprised by that. When I got out of my car, I knew what I was walking into, but I was very surprised by the work capacity of the kids. That was the first thing that had to change in the program, was our kids' willingness to push themselves beyond their capacity currently. I can remember, so just talking about, we have a kid right now at Texas A&M playing tight end, and I vividly remember he was a sophomore our first year. So this is the spring of his freshman year. And I vividly remember looking at him and going, that ain't enough weight, brother. And I put like literally just slapping 25-pound weights on the side of the bar for his bench press. And you just gotta change that. That's the first thing that has to change. But there was nothing there that was reusable from what was there previously.
Well, I'll tell you something you need to invest in if you don't have it, and they're not sponsors. They should be. We got it this year. Turf tank. Good Lord have mercy. I told them that.
Coach, we got it.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, we got it this year.
Greatest thing ever. Whoever came up with that, genius. Greatest thing ever made. I told them they could have my coaching supplement. I didn't care. Take whatever you need out of my coaching supplement to help pay for that. It's worth every penny.
Coach, we got that. We got Turf Tank this year, and I will attest it has been tremendous. Now, I'm very, very blessed. Things have changed. I mean, there was a 6-year period there that if the practice field was getting painted, it was me and I had about 3 or 4 guys that I had trained up on how to assist me on painting the practice field. But it was me and one of them 3. And but this year, man, we got the Turf Tank, and it is. I completely agree. It is so awesome. Like I walk outside of my room because I teach American government right off the practice field in one of the portables, and I walk out there and I just watch that machine just running. I'm sitting there teaching class and the machine's running. Man, it is a awesome thing.
It's unbelievable. When they did the demonstration, I mean, I'm older, so I got out there and I was like, so let me get this straight. I said, what if it messes up? The guy's like, it's not going to mess up. Like, this is unbelievable. I mean, you might as well have been showing me the moon landing in the 60s. I was like, this is fantastic. I mean, it's just amazing. But
the only way it messes up is if you mess it up.
Exactly, human error.
Yeah, as long as you know what's going on, it's going to put those lines out. They're going to be perfectly straight, and because there'd be days, man, I'd be walking fast because I had a 45-minute planning period, and I had to have 2.5 practice fields painted. It took me to load the paint and all the things. I mean, it was a struggle to push that cart down that before my next period class. So I had my planning period, and there were some of them lines would be wobbly, and now you ain't got to worry about it, man. Now you ain't got to worry about it.
So what are your your basic coaching philosophy tenets? Like, what's your basic, if you were sitting down in an interview and someone asked you, what's your coaching philosophy, what would your answer be?
My coaching philosophy is to develop leaders who are the best version of themselves through their toughness, commitment, caring, attitude, and work ethic.
Well, there you
and
go.
I don't think there are enough leaders in this world. And not everybody on our team is going to be a leader, and I understand that, and I'm okay with that. We've got to build the leadership capacity in all people, even if they're not going to be leaders down the road. I think that our society is missing some of these guys. So our big focus, Ryan, it's not coach speak. It is coach speak, but it's not to me. Is being the best version of us. All we can control is what we can control. This past year, we lost to Sanford Seminole 38-28 in a playoff game, and I came home and I slept like a baby because we played about as good as we could play, and they were just better than us. And that just is what it is. Like, I'm not worried about that. If we lose to somebody that's better than us, I'm going to sleep like a baby. If we play the way we can play, if we go out and we fumble the ball and we give up big plays on defense and we don't get lined up right, those are the things you lose sleep over. But I'm just trying for us to control what we can control. And if I ever have another job, I'm going to dwindle it down even more. But those 5 things I talked about, being the best version of yourself through commitment, caring, work ethic, toughness, and attitude are going to be what we can control. I tell the kids every day, hey man, it's Monday and you're going to lift. You control your attitude about this. You control your work ethic. You control how much you care about this. And we have a unique definition for each of those things that our kids got to know and recite and be a part of. And ever since I realized that it's all about us, and I'm 42 years old, and I'm in a lot better mood when I'm not on social media. I've stopped worrying about what everybody else is doing. I've stopped worrying about what's on the other side of the fence and how green their grass is. And I'm just worried about growing our grass and growing our kids and developing them. And I'm in a lot better mood because of it. And so we're not as active on social media anymore. I've got one of my young assistants trying to run that. And I don't really care if we're on it or not. Because that's not what's important. Nobody's ever going to walk back into Creekside High School and go, oh man, coach, I love when you posted this. No, that's not what they talk about. They talk about the moments in the weight room. They talk about the moments at team camp. They talk about the moments in the game and at practice, in the hallways, being alive, being together, not about what's on social media. And I do understand that there is some importance of having a social media presence and all of that, but I'm trying to make the experience of the kids better and develop that leadership among them, because I do think that our society is void of leaders these days, people who are willing to stand up for what's right, people who are willing to take control and charge in critical, difficult moments, whether it just be in their family, be at their job, or in the hallway. It doesn't matter. Just develop some leaders. That's our goal.
And that's awesome, Coach. And I appreciate the fact that you're taking that stance and that you're passing that on to young men these days, because as you said, we definitely need that. And over the years, you've been able to have that influence and continue to have that influence. And I'm so glad we met at the clinic a couple of years ago and continue to be friends. And I hope to get to see you at one. I hope you're in Orlando this year and I get to see you. I know it's a bit of a drive from Jacksonville, but I'm sure we'll cross paths at some time. And I sure do appreciate you being on with us.
Coach, I appreciate you having me. I love football. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, I am on Twitter. I try not to check it as often as I used to, but my email is just my name, Sean.McIntyre at stjohns.k12.fl.us. Anybody want to get a hold of me? We are an open book, probably to a fault. We'll tell you exactly how we do it and what we do. And I love talking to good people about good ball. It's a fun thing to do and about developing kids.
Thanks, Coach. I sure do appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.